Hello dear students, welcome to this lecture series on mechanical system design. Today we are going to discuss about design of material handling system. Myself, Professor M.R. Pardesi, Assistant Professor in Mechanical Engineering Department, KK Wagh Institute of Engineering, Education and Research, Nasik. Today we are going to discuss about material handling system. In the material handling system, in any industrial development has grow of a factory or a plant size. Grow is one of the factory or a plant size has created huge demanded for a material handling system. So any material handling process or system consists of a three activities. First one is picking up the load, second one is transporting the load, and third one is the setting the load down. You can see in the slide various different types of material handling systems you might have been seen in day-to-day life. So we'll see in details. First of all, if you talk about the types of load, there are two types of loads, bulk load and unit load. In the bulk load consists of large homogeneous particle or lump material. For example, coal, mineral ore, sand, stone, clay or cement, etc. Then if you talk about unit load, it is a single rigid mass handled and transported as one piece. For example, machines or boxes or the containers, and the things required to converting that particular bulk load into a unit load, it is called a containerization. So containerization is the process of converting the bulk load or a small load into a unit load by using a containers. So containers of a different size and shape are used for handling the bulk load as well as the product of a small size. The container act like a special type of unit load and they can be handled as a unit load. In material handling, depending upon the size of the container, one container may be treated as a unit load or a number of containers stacked together may be treated as a unit load. So containerization is the process of converting the bulk load or a small unit into a unit load by using the containers. It is called as containerization. Then if you talk about the unit load containers, these are the some pictures. Wooden pallets are there, pallet box are there, or the tote box is there. Then if you talk about the wire mesh containers, so especially this wire mesh container is using for the heat treatment processes or those product require the elevated temperature or the some coating has to be done by pouring that particular product into a oil or into any other chemical. In that case, the wire mesh container is to be used. Then principle of selecting the material handling system. First principle is the direction of load. In the direction of load, it is very important while selecting the material handling system. In that case, direction of load is very much important as well as the length of load is also important. Then the type of property of the load, then the characteristics of production process, then the local condition, then the initial and operating cost. So one by one we'll see. First one is the direction of load. In that case, the load travel is one of the most important parameter in selecting the material handling equipment for the given application. If the direction of load travel is vertical or close to vertical, the equipment used as hoist, crane or elevators. If the direction of load travel is horizontal or close to horizontal, the various types of conveyor are to be used. Then another factor is length of load. The length of load travel is large or and conveyor is to be used where if the length of load travel is small, hoist or crane is to be used. Then type and properties of the load. It is very much important while handling a material or while selecting the material handling system or the equipment for the given application. For example, hoisting machine are suitable for unit load, whereas conveyors are used for a bulk load. So while the properties of bulk load are lump size, tendency to form cake, density, temperature, chemical properties are taken into consideration. Then the characteristics of production process. So it is the one of the most significant factor in selecting the material handling equipment. For example, assembly line and paint shop uses conveyor, forging and welding shop employed cranes, whereas mines use conveyor and elevators. So this is very much important. Then local condition significantly the selecting the material handling equipment are size and shape of the area, type and design of the building, then type of energy available, safety requirement and climatic condition. So the local condition is also very much important while designing material handling equipment. Then initial and operating cost. Initial and operating cost are important parameter in selecting the material handling equipment for the given application. Then if you talk about the objectives of material handling system, in that case you'll find the accuracy in transporting the load to destination. It is the system should transport the load to the destination with fair degree of positional accuracy. Then second, precision pickup. So the material handling system should pick up the load from their position within the shortest time with minimum human intervention. Then the schedule time, the material handling system should move the load to their destination in the scheduled time. Then the required quantity. So the material handling system should deliver the load to the department or the place in the required quantity, or the rate of supply of material by the material handling system is very important parameter affecting the performance of the plant, especially in continuous flow of bulk load. Then without damage. So while handling the system should not damage the load being transported at a time of loading or unloading or transmitting. Then minimum manpower. Material handling system should be a mechanized to be a fullest possible extent so as to minimizing the manpower requirement for operational and control. Then low cost, low initial and operational cost is it should be a low initial as well as the running cost. Then easy maintenance, or we can say simplicity, or the material handling system should have a simple arrangement, or the conveying equipment are nowadays assembled from a standard unit. The different standard mechanical and structural component or unit are assembled to form a material handling system. To standardize the improve the performance of the system and to reduce the cost of the particular system. Then operational safety. The material handling system should be a safe in operation. It should have sufficient number of in bulk safety devices so as to ensure the safe working environment. Then if you talk about the classification of material handling equipment, you'll find first type is the hoisting equipment. In the hoisting equipment, there are three categories: hoisting machine, cranes and elevators. If you talk about hoisting machine, in that case you'll find jacks, pulley, portable hand hoist, portable powered hoist, travel powered operated hoist, etc. Then if you talk about the cranes, in that case jeep crane with rotary pillar, stationary cranes with telescopic tower crane or gantry crane. Then if you talk about elevators, in that case cage elevators, vertical skip elevator, manual operated stacker, etc. If you talk about the surface and overhead equipment, in that case the trackless truck, narrow gauge car, overhead trackage system, etc. And in third type, it is the conveyors. In the conveyor equipment, flat belt conveyor, throw belt conveyor, then a blanket belt conveyor, chain conveyor, apron conveyors, etc. So we'll see in detail one by one. First of all, non-power industrial trucks. So it is a hand trucks. So it doesn't require any type of power or any type of electricity. So two-wheeler hand truck, four-wheeler dolly or hand operated low lift pallet truck is to be used, or it is called as the non-power industrial trucks. Then power trucks, it is called a walkie trucks. It is required the steering and control lever. It requires the drive unit, forks, and obviously by using the pallet that load has to be shifted from one place to another place. Then power trucks, or it may be a forklift truck. Again, it is a motorized or power type of a system which is to be used for handling the material from one place to another place. You might have been seen this type of power truck in the industry. It has a forks, fork carriage, mast and overhead gauge. It requires driver to drive that particular lift. Then power truck or towing tractors, if you talk about this tow tractor is there and trailer is there. On that trailer it can load has to be transferred from one place to another place. Then if you talk about the conveyor systems, so conveyor are used when material must be moved in relatively large quantity between a specific location over a fixed path. So conveyor divided into a two basic categories. First one is powered conveyor and another is the non-powered conveyor. So in powered conveyor, the powered mechanism is contained in a fixed path using belt or rotating rolls or other devices to propel load along the path. They are commonly used in automated material transfer system. In non-powered conveyor, the material are moved either manually or by human workers who push the load along the fixed path. Then types of conveyors. A variety of conveyor equipment is commercially available. The following are the major types of powered conveyors. First one is roller conveyor. In pathway consists of a series of tubes are there or maybe a roller that are perpendicular to the direction of travel. The roller are contained in a fixed frame that elevates the pathway above the floor level from the several inches to several feet. The flat pallets carrying unit load are moved forward as the roller rotates. Roller conveyor are used in a wide variety of application including manufacturing, assembly and packaging. So in the picture if you see here, these are the rollers are there and it is a perpendicular to the direction of move. Then the belt conveyor consists of a continuous loop. Half its length is used for delivering a material and other half is the return run. Means what? Here if you see the forward loop, here VC is generated and from this side if you see here, this is a return loop. So half portion is for the length is used for the delivering the material and half is used for the returning the run. So it has a idlers, drive roll and support slider, return loop and forward loop. So chain conveyors, another type of conveyor, it consists of the endless chain running over the drive, or we can say the tail sprocket is going to use. The drive sprocket is coupled to the drive unit. The load carrying strain, the chain is supported on the load carrying trucks, while the return strand of a chain is supported on the return track. So here the drive sprocket is there and this is the discharge gate. So where, and the carrying trough is here. From this the material is to be carried from one place to another place. It has a tail sprocket, roller chain and flights to carry the load from one place to another place. Then another type of conveyor is the screw conveyor. It consists of a screw or a worm in the form of helix rotating in a trough or a tube. So it is a screw conveyor. Then element of belt conveyor system. So there are 13 elements of conveyor system. If you look at the diagram very carefully, already the numbers are given like 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 13. So one by one we'll see. First one is the conveyor belt. If you look at the number 1, yes, conveyor belt. So here is the conveyor belt. So it is roll over the rollers or the drive pulley and tail pulley and the idlers. Then second is the drive and head pulley. So number 2 is here. So this is called a drive or the head pulley. Then number 3 is the tail pulley. So here is the tail pulley or the tail end. Then snub pulley, 4 number. Here is the location of the snub pulley to change the direction of belt and maintain the tightness of the belt along the head pulley and the tail pulley. Then 5 and 6 are the idlers. So here is the number 5 and number 6 is the idler. There are two types of idlers are there. Number 5 is the carrying run idler. Over that the load is to be carried, and 6 is the return run idler. So in that case the belt has to be returned towards the tail end again, so that the return run idler is to be used. Then bend pulley to maintaining the tension between the belt. So here number 7 is the bend pulley is used along with the take up pulley, number 8. So here is the maintaining the tension with by using the deadweight type of take up devices is to maintain the tightness of the belt. Then counterweight, 9 number, to maintain the tightness, so weight has to be increased after some cycle. Then number 10 and 11 is the belt cleaner to clean the belt here frequently to improve the life of the belt. Then feeder is there, number 12. Here is the feeder, and hopper is there, 13 number. Here is the hopper. From the hopper the material is to be poured. From the feeder that material has to be smoothly transferred to the belt and has to be transferred from one place to another place. So these are the elements of belt conveyor system. Then trough belt conveyor. In the trough belt conveyor, if you see the diagram very carefully, in that case you will find capital B and the small b, where the capital B is nothing but the width of the pulley, width of the belt, and small b is the width of the material storage on the belt or the effective belt width. So simply here the material is there here, and it creates the angle that is psi, and it has a height that is h. So as you see the 3 idler trough belt and 5 idler trough belt, so in that case the storing of particular material is increasing while using the 3 idler trough belt, or again it is increasing in the 5 idler trough belt because of the particular idlers we are using or number of idlers are using, and the beta, whatever the angle is made between the it is called the angle of idler with the horizontal, that is in degrees, so that beta is to be increased in case of 5 idler, again it is in the 3 idlers. So instead of 1 idler or the flat belt, if I use the 3 idler trough belt or the 5 idler trough belt, we can say that mass quantity of flow or the larger quantity of flow that can be transferred from one place to another place by means of trough belt conveyor. Then if you talk about the capacity of belt conveyor, that is capital Q, the volumetric capacity for horizontal belt conveyor is that can be calculated Q is equals to C into B square into V, where C is the surcharge factor, B is the width of the material storage on the belt or effective belt width, and obviously V is the belt speed in meters per second. So another formula that can be used, Q is equals to C into 0.9 times capital V minus 0.05 bracket square into V. Another formula for calculating the capacity of belt, that is Q is equals to C into 0.9 V minus 0.05 bracket square into V into 3600. This is for the calculation of Q in meter cube per hour, and first Q is calculated for meter cube per second, another Q is for formula is for meter cube per second again, and another formula is converting for meter cube per hour. So the mass capacity that can be transferred or that can be calculated, M, capital M, is equals to rho into Q, where rho is the mass density of bulk material, Q is obviously the capacity of belt. So that from this formula we can calculate the width of the belt as well as effective width belt. Then we can calculate the belt speed, or we can calculate the mass capacity. Then this is the standard table for the surcharge factor. If you see the table, if you'll find the flat belt, 2 idler belt, 3 idler and 5 idler, as we have seen earlier in the earlier slide. And the parameter, the angle of idler with horizontal, that is beta, if it is there 15 or 20, so the angle of repose and angle of surcharge or the surcharge factor C, that can be vary and depending on upon the type of belt. Then angle of repose and angle of surcharge. So what do you mean by angle of repose? Angle of repose, if a free flowing conveying material is dropped or poured on a stationary conveyor belt, the angle made by the two surfaces of a material with horizontal direction is known as the angle of repose, that is indicated by psi. Then angle of surcharge, that is phi, if the free flowing conveying material is dropped or poured on a moving conveyor belt, the angle made by the top surface of the material with the horizontal direction is known as angle of surcharge, that is called phi. The angle of surcharge phi will always be less than the angle of repose, that is phi. Then another capacity of belt conveyor, that is Q, for the inclined belt conveyor. So the volumetric capacity for the inclined belt conveyor, that is Q is equals to K into B square into V. Okay. Then another formula for calculating the capacity of belt for the inclined belt, Q is equals to K into 0.9B minus 0.05 bracket square into V. Then another is Q is equals to K into 0.9B minus 0.05 bracket square into V into 3600. And mass capacity again, M is equals to rho into Q. So here only one factor is adding. Instead of surcharge factor, we are adding here the flowability factor, that is small k. So flowability factor is nothing but the, as inclined belt is there, so we need to take into consideration the flowability factor. So there is one table again here, flowability factor for the plain belt and the pleated belt. So the belt inclination, depending on that, the flowability factor K, that is being changed. So this is again standard table for the plain belt and the pleated belt. Then that is the conveyor belt speed, that is V. Again it is also depending on the type of material manufactured for the belt is to be used, and capital B, that is the width of the belt, and depending on that we can select the how much belt speed is there. This is also a standard table. Suppose if your material is made up of a low abrasive or the non-degradable material, peat or salt, and it is having a capital B is 400, then you can select the belt speed in between 1.5 to 1.1 to 1.5 meters per second. Then the standard belt width are there. It is again 400, 450 up to the 2400 mm. Then head and drive pulley, as how it is going to calculate the minimum direction diameter of a drive pulley and the tail pulley, that is D minimum is equals to K1 into K2 into ZP. So where ZP is equals to number of plies, K1 is the material factor for plies, K2 is the belt tension and the arc of contact. So D minimum has to be calculated in K1 into K2 into ZP. Again K1 and K2 having a standard table. Material factor, K1 is the material factor. So material of plies, suppose is the rayon duck or the duck in combination with capron or the Savson. So in that case the K1 has to be taken. Then anide, capron, high tensile capron. So depending on the material of plies, so K1 has to be selected. K2 is also arc of contact, on the basis of arc of contact, and the belt tension as percentage or the F, on the basis of that the K2 has to be selected. So summation of F is nothing but F tight plus F slack, and K1 and K2 has to be selected, and from this D minimum has to be calculated, K1 into K2 into ZP. So where ZP is the number of plies. Then the head and drive and tail pulleys. So the length of pulley, that is LP, is given by, if you see the diagram, in that case LP is the length of pulley. So total length over the belt is to be running, that is called LP, and LP is nothing but calculated capital B plus twice S. So capital B is nothing but here width of the belt, and twice S. S is the side margin. It is standard, it is up to 60 to 75 mm, and where D is the diameter of pulley or the drive pulley diameter, capital D. So from this you can calculate the length of the pulley. And these are the various types of idlers. Roller type of idler with ball bearing, roller type of idler with roller bearing, then another is the spring type of idler, then impact idler, and the disc type of idler. So these are various types of idler which is used in a conveyor system. So this is for today's session. Thank you for listening me. Thank you all.